Here we are again, after another half a year-long hiatus, with a new real video. Mega Man Battle Network. This is a series that has held a special place in my heart for many a year, and I couldn't have been happier when I saw Capcom announce the Mega Man Battle Network collections for PC and modern consoles. The first game in the series released for the Game Boy Advance back in 2001, and ever since, its rad-as-all-hell character designs and pleasant OSTs had a vice grip on my intricate yet easily entertained psyche, and said vice grip has urged me to 100% this series starting with the first game. So here we go with as many details about that entire ordeal as I can fit within a reasonable amount of time. The game revolves around an 11-year-old boy named Lamb, who operates one of their world's versions of a souped-up Tamagotchi pet called a NetNavi. His in particular is named, you guessed it, Mega Man. You start out just kinda getting thrown into it. No exposition, no nothing. You wake up and then you go to school like nothing's gonna happen. And somehow, over the course of maybe a week's time, you're stopping house fires, fixing traffic lights that are causing car crashes, and preventing a rocket from blowing up the internet. The fate of the world as we know it, in the hands of a 5th grader. So Lan's just your average elementary school boy with an above-average computer program, and somehow he's expected to end the ongoing spree of internet terrorism caused by a group called World 3 led by a madman named Dr. Wily. But only when their string of cybercrime should directly affect either him or AC/DC Town. Disregard all the people that might be suffering in other parts of the world. They're probably fine. We don't need to think about them. Now that the boring stuff is out of the way, let's talk about the fun part. Pseudo turn-based combat. Throughout the course of the game, you'll swap back and forth between controlling Lan in the real world and Mega Man on the net, with both sides solving puzzles that require little to no brain power. Although 90% of the time you're going to be using Mega Man running around in circles and getting lost due to forgetting where you were and where you're going because of random encounters with various internet viruses. During each encounter, you'll start with a selection of 5 random battle chips pulled from a folder of 30 that you can interchange while outside of combat with more chips that you'll pick up along the way. After you select the chips that you're going to use, the real fight starts. Each enemy will have a specific attack or attacks, and usually move with a bit of a pattern either based off of your position or following its own rules. While active combat is ongoing, a bar at the top of the screen will slowly fill. When it fills completely, you can open the menu again, and you'll see that the slots with the chips that you selected at the start have been replaced, and you can go on to select more chips to be used in this instance of combat. This process will repeat until all viruses have been deleted. While I enjoy the style of combat, I can definitely see why some wouldn't. You get the interactivity you're looking for when ducking and weaving around enemy attacks. However, you still experience the pace of the game come to a grinding halt every time you step into a fight. And if you should somehow lose said fight, be it from a lack of preparation to just dumb luck, then you go back to your last save, which for the type of player that doesn't save frequently, could be an experience about as enjoyable as eating an ice cream sandwich with a chipped tooth. Here's where the oh-so-enjoyable gameplay loop that's provided about 13 hours of fun starts to wear down on the player's mind like a rushing river over a boulder. Some of the things you have to do to unlock stuff in the post-game is utter nonsense, the main example of which being obtaining boss chips from story bosses. But before we talk about that, let's talk about a game mechanic that I probably should have gone over in the gameplay segment of the video, but I felt it would fit better here due to its relevancy. Busting level. Your busting level is the score you get at the end of each encounter, ranging from S to 1, S being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and is determined by time, number of instances damage was taken, and simultaneous virus deletion. This score determines possible battle chips obtained, as well as how much money is earned at the end of combat. Now that we've established that, we can move on to the aggravating part. Each boss in the game has 3 battle chips that can be used against enemies, and to obtain them you need to get a certain busting level after successfully defeating them. The messed up part is that only the first and second encounter with any of these bosses is guaranteed, and even then, after you defeat them, it's still a random chance on if you'll get the chip you're looking for when getting its corresponding busting level. Meaning that after those first 2 encounters, not only are you looking for a now random encounter with said boss, you're praying to God, Buddha, or any other deity that the random number generation of this game is at the mercy to give you the chip that you're looking for so that you may move on with your life. But don't worry, for everyone who might intend to 100% this game, You can put down the imaginary pliers and keep your metaphorical teeth, because Capcom was nice enough to include something called Buster Max in the Mega Man Battle Network collection. When enabled, your basic Buster attack will now deal 500 damage, so you can two-shot any boss in the game. With this, it makes it significantly easier to manipulate the actual fight with the randomly encountered bosses, so the main thing you would have to worry about at that point is finding them in the first place, which luckily can be manipulated to some degree, because the game calculates what encounter you'll have next, based around when you start moving, what direction, and whether you're walking or running. Most other things in the post-game are side quests that take little to no effort to complete, and getting chips from the chip trader, which could be a toss-up between a pain in the backside or your best friend, depending upon how lucky you are. There are some optional bosses as well, but they're always in one place, losing to them doesn't force you back to your last save, and only one of them is an actual threat. So as long as you have a bit of patience, none of that should be too horrible to go through. Once you're finished with all of the post-game content, the main things you'll have to show for it are a sack full of battle chips you're probably not going to use, a health bar that removes the threat of deletion from every enemy you'll encounter, and a Mega Buster that either shreds through everything up close or blows apart enemies at range with a charge shot. This is all fine and dandy, however most optional bosses aren't fun enough to revisit with the enhanced toolkit, and the only other use for any of these would be to play against others online, which, while I do enjoy playing competitive games, I don't believe this one is up my alley for a handful of reasons that I feel should be immediately apparent. So, was 100%ing Mega Man Battle Network worth it? Probably not, but I'm too deep in the rabbit hole called nostalgia, so the cycle shall repeat with the next 5 games. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and let's hope I can stick to making videos at least semi-consistently from now on. Take care, and see you again in hopefully at maximum a month's time.